know if I know you had to get up early. I don't know if you stayed up with that one last night, but where are you at on this thing? Did you expect the Browns to do what they did? I'm sure not. No, not many people did.
Well, as you know, I'm never get too high, never get too low. So I hate to say it, but the last 15 years have pretty much beat me down to expect the worst when it comes to the Browns. So did I expect that? Heck no. So I think for sure. I mean, a surprise. And I was talking with someone a couple days ago and said, I think the Browns and as I said this morning, even to the same guy, I said, I think the Browns are good enough to beat anybody in the NFL, and they're bad enough to lose to anyone too. And I don't know how you can, the people that play the schedule game, I don't know how you could look at the rest of their schedule and go, oh, that's a win or oh, that's a loss, because I mean, I think the one thing you've learned in 9 games from this team is that there's certainly potential there, and I think that potential is coming out more and more often. But there's some clunkers in there too, and not to get all cliche on the Browns, but the more I think they take it, 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time, I really think it's to their benefit. But yeah, I mean, it's better to be talking about being competitive than talking about next year's quarterback.
Absolutely. You got that right. And still a whole lot more, like we've been saying. I keep coming back to what last night does more than anything else is make the rest of it possible. Now you can look, because like I said with JK, it's one thing when you're doing they're 3-5, they're in the hunt. Those trip me out. Yeah, technically you're in the hunt, but it's a big difference when it's legitimate contention and competition, and that's where you're at right now. And I keep going to the unique factor that the Browns have done most of this without any of the people expected to help them win whatever games you did expect them to win, and knowing that at the very worst, you're 6-4. At the very worst, when you get Josh Gordon back, when you most likely for sure have Jordan Cameron back if you don't have him back for Houston. So those are 2 big pieces that you're going to add. And I know they're not going to jump right in and change the world, but man, add those in to what you've already got going on here, and you really open up the possibilities down the stretch, man, for what they may be able to do. But the key more than that, because they've shown on offense that they can get it done, like enough. If you just need 150-yard passing, we'll get whatever they need, they'll get. It's the defense that has me excited, because last night they played an offense with a lot of weapons, and the defense played as well as they did against them as they did against some lesser lights over the last few weeks. So hopefully that means that defense is turning it on, because that part can be playoff caliber regardless of what anybody thinks about the offensive line, quarterbacks, anything on the offense. The defense has the ability to be a playoff caliber defense, and hopefully they're just now getting warmed up.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be interested, kind of to go along with what you just said, and the defense kind of getting warmed up and doing it against the team that had some weapons. I'll be interested to see how that plays out against Houston, because kind of the same thing where, I mean, there's some weapons, but maybe not the greatest quarterback situation. But I not to be the Debbie Downer again, but I always kind of take those Thursday night games with a grain of salt, because football is not meant to be played with 3 days to prepare and 3 days to get healthy. And I guess I think like your margin of error, just is so much more on those Thursday night games. And I mean, the way I heard you saying with your caller that, after the first quarter, you knew the Browns were going to win. I thought the exact same thing, and maybe not in those words, but as I watched the game, I thought, it looks to me like one team is prepared for this team or for this game, and the other team just had practice yesterday and didn't really prepare for this game. I mean, I think it was clear that, the Browns went in prepared and playing with the importance of winning a divisional game and beating the Bengals and establishing themselves and getting in this race and all these things that you're talking about. Where, if I was at Bengals practice, I feel like maybe they just had practice and didn't really prepare for anything specifically or in particular. And that's kind of what they looked like last night. And by the time they looked up and realized they had a game, the game was over. And I mean, again, like I said, not to take anything away from the Browns, but, hopefully, you start to string these together. I mean, it's the same thing, you talk about the Indians. It's not so much winning a game as it is, putting together 3 out of 4, have a good month, hopefully, they have 2 wins now in a row or 3 in a row now. Let's turn 3 in a row to 5 out of 7 or something, and then you really start to get going.
Absolutely, and actually they're there now, 5 out of 6, looking to make it 6 out of 7 here coming up. But you talked about the Indians. Let me segue off of that for a minute because I've got plenty of time here. I'm pretty sure this show is going to keep coming back to the Browns and that win over there. But
you think somebody else will want to talk about the Browns, huh?
Maybe. My gut tells me that I'm pretty sure we're going to keep heading in that direction. But since I got you, and I've only got a couple of minutes.
Sometimes just don't get enough attention.
Yeah, some people have told me that before, that occasionally the media likes to focus a bit on that football team over there on the lakeshore a bit. Man, the fans, too. I'll tell you what, they traveled last night real quick since we're still on it. Man, half that stadium was Browns fans last night that traveled down to Cincinnati. At the end of that game, JK said it, I haven't mentioned it enough, to see a game in Cincinnati end with the fans chanting "Hoyer, Hoyer," man, that was something there. No more chanting Johnny. They were respectful to Hoyer, but to have that much of a turnout, you knew it right away when the Browns got that pick at the beginning of the game. I heard the roar. I said, "Man, the Browns are the home team in this one." I don't know about Cincinnati. Looks like there may be as many Browns fans here as the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, and I think good and bad, but this town has always supported a winner, but this town has always supported the Browns.
Oh yeah, we know that.
And so I think in a lot of ways this town is always dedicated to Cleveland or to the Browns through good times and bad. So I think when things go well, they're quick to jump on the bandwagon, and I'm not surprised that many of them got there. I'm only surprised that many of them could get tickets.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That was probably how they got the black, because they were looking at a blackout locally up until like a couple of days before the game there. So I'm sure that Cleveland fans helped give an assist to keep that game on Cincinnati television by selling out those games. That's one of the best rackets in the world, by the way. The local blackout, man, I'll tell you. Hey, no problem. We just won't put your game on TV if you don't buy all the tickets. But anyways, I was saying, segueing over to the Tribe real quick, because I mentioned it. This is a good way to go with what you just mentioned. I talked last week. I plugged the article that you wrote about it's time for the Indian, and it was mostly fantasy booking kind of a thing, wish list, but if the Cavs, following up the opening night hoopla around the Cavs, and if the Indians followed that game plan this winter and went after not one but two kind of a price tag, name tag type of guys, to really get some of that momentum flowing in. And it was a good article, man. I mean, obviously, from your lips to the Dolan's ears, but, for it being what it is, I thought it was good because you could really see it's not just the typical, I'm a fan and I just want to see this guy play on my team and that guy get signed because I want to see the Indians spend money. You made a great point about how that would not just be a good on-field strategical set of moves to make, such as bringing back Victor and going after one of the frontline pitchers, but it would move the needle in the ticket box as well.
Yeah, it's pretty much a dream, and I think that's the case. But I think it's one of those situations where we talk about and we have our hopes and dreams of what we'd like to see, and I thought it was a good story for a Friday, and in that we'd all like to dream big. But coming off of that evening with LeBron and the excitement around the Cavs and still that excitement, I mean, there's interest around the Cavs that they haven't had since the last time LeBron was here, and I think to go along with that, building some of that excitement and what the Indians would be able to do. I mean, I think we saw a little glimmer of that in 2013 when Swisher and Bourne and Francona were signed. I mean, maybe because I'm so close to it, I don't notice. But I mean, I felt like there were more people paying attention to spring training and paying attention to those early games that year than normally what really happens. And I think, the downside to it is that, baseball is such a long season that excitement, the same excitement that you have for the Browns doesn't really carry the same way in a 162 game season. But, if you would make those moves and then have some early success, I think it would really build going into your summer months, and I think we know that place can be a fun place. Progressive Field can be a fun place to be when the Indians are playing well and the weather's nice, and it can become the place to be downtown very easily.
And for those of you guys that understand how drawing power works and how being the hot ticket and all of that stuff plays in besides just the product on the field, and then when you combine them all, you get that perfect storm. And I think that the Indians are in that position because of what we're talking about right now. The Browns are just adding to that with whatever they add to this winter with a playoff run or close to it or whatever it is. The excitement about the Cavs, I mean, of course, looking forward that it's eventually going to end up being quite exciting at the end, and the Indian season and the timing of it falling right on the back end of that. It's addictive going to the hot ticket, going to the winning game, going to be the hot team. Like our news break today, out of a 90-second ESPN break, I mean, how often is, 60 seconds of it about Cleveland sports in various articles, but that's addictive. And if the Indians that's why I thought there's more than just fantasy writing about the points that you made, because if you do that, if you make a couple of bold moves, you really create an opportunity for people that are now going, oh man, my season tickets there's only like 5 Cavs games left here, playoffs, that's it, man. You want to keep going. You want to keep heading to that spot, to the Thirsty Parrot. You want to head downtown. You want to go to them. You see the same people. The Indians are the extension of that through the summer, and you could really ride the wave of momentum that's coming through this winter in Cleveland, which makes it more than just, boy, I'd like to see Victor Martinez back. There's an actual reason why it makes sense to do it.
Yeah, I think so. And, I think in this town, too, to go along with what you said, people are always, looking for that summer fun. And like you said, I think the door is wide open for the Indians to run through. And this town in general is so thirsty. I mean, all jokes aside, look at Jerry. As soon as the Browns win a couple games in a row, you can go wall to wall talking about the Browns for a week if you want to, because this town is fired up. For the next 10 days, this is what this town's going to talk about. And, as soon as the Cavs get on track, and I think, anybody that has followed sports and knows, there's no reason to be hammering any panic button on the Cavs or anything.
That.
Once they get on track, I think they're going to have a stretch where they're going to rattle off, 8 out of 11 or, 10 out of 12 or something, and that same buzz will be around them. They're the hot ticket right now, and the Browns have always been the hot team in this town, and so we've talked about this a number of times. The Indians right now are running third, and they're not competing just in the American League Central. I think they're competing with their fan base and for their fan dollar. And, we've talked about at times, is there enough fan dollar to go around for 3 teams anymore? And I'm not sure that there is, but in the current situation, there's 3 teams that are vying for whatever money's out there. And, I think the Indians, have to come up with new ways to get that fan dollar in. And I love all their promotions, and I definitely don't mean this as a shot. Some people take it as a shot at them, and I don't think that that's fair. People love their promotions, and that'll get people to show up for that day. But what happens on the field is what gets them to come back. I mean, you may love their fireworks shows, and they're great shows,